Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Chris coming at you with another episode to the Beautiful Struggle podcast. And this is episode number 47. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, this podcast is a personal development podcast and it's also a business podcast. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please feel free to tune in. We drop a new episode every single Monday, bright and early, so you can start your week off right. Start your week off with some inspiration and a little bit of motivation. And if you're looking to get some more content from us, you can go ahead and follow us at Beautiful Struggle Podcast on Instagram. That's at Beautiful Struggle Podcast on Instagram. With all that out the way, if you guys are watching on YouTube, as you can see, we have another guest on the podcast via a Zoom call. Again, looks like he's at his office.
Yeah, man, got to throw the virtual background in there.
Virtual background. Yep. So I just wanted to quickly introduce him real quick. We'll definitely dive into, what he does and some of the projects that he's working on right now. So my guest today, he's first and foremost, he's a father, he's a husband. He's the host of the Fail to Grow podcast, the creator of the Urban Foodie Experience, and he's also the founder and CEO of Melanence, which is a professional career personal development platform community built for communities of color. I had a conversation with him just the other day, and I can also tell he's very passionate about making a difference and having an impact on his community. And I know you guys are going to get a lot of value from this young man here, Juan Young Jr. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here. Excited to be on the pod, and
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Absolutely. Well, I got to say thank you for jumping on the podcast, especially on this holiday, 4th of July. Thank you for taking the time out to hang out with us for a little bit.
Of course, man. Of course, man. No other place I would rather be, and plus,
Hey,
no days off anyway, man. So
no days out. I know. I seen you, working around the clock last night on your Instagram. You were up at like 3, 4, working. That's what's up, man.
3 a.m. Yeah, man. I was up working, and the wife, man, she was up working on her children's book, and I'm
Mm,
like, look at us, man. This is dope. I told her
that's
we're
what's
gonna
up.
feel it in the morning, but nah, but some whenever you feel get that energy, man, you gotta knock it out, man. You gotta think.
Exactly. You got to take advantage. So that's super dope. I'm really interested in your story and really the process of how you became an entrepreneur. So we could really just start there, man. Were you born and raised in the Inland Empire?
No, man, I'm actually from LA. I was born in South
Okay.
Central Los Angeles, Watts. You know, yeah, man, that's kind of where all my life was spent there. I moved out to the
Gotcha.
IE as an adult once I
Mm.
got married, and you go where your wife tell you to go. So no, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
man.
know how
So
that goes.
raised in LA, um, early years there, man. Oldest of two. Um, great childhood, man. Parents really set an amazing foundation. Mom was the education person, um,
Mm.
and pops was the sports extracurricular activities person. So great
Nice.
balance. Um, you know, I'm always, as I continue, as I look back over my life, I'm always really amazed. Like, my parents did a really great job of keeping us from getting involved in a lot of other things that some of the people around us were getting involved in. We stayed busy, and
Hmm.
yeah, man. So just I think the foundation really set it for me for this
Hmm.
entrepreneurial and positive kind of path that I'm trying to live. So
Awesome. That's good that you brought that up because I wanted to know where did this like entrepreneurial spirit come from. I really think for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like we get it from our parents or maybe we get it from a brother or sister. Like, what was that switch for you that you were like, hey, this is the route that I want to go?
yeah, I think it's a combination of a few things. Um, my mom was an entrepreneur. So
Mm,
my mom ran a preschool for 23 years before she passed. But being able to see my mom, running a business and
mm,
the ebbs and flows of business, And I would work there at her business. I would help her with her marketing. I would do a whole bunch of stuff. So really seeing like, the times when she was killing it, and then the times when it was slow. When you're in that space in the summer, when people are not working, you don't have as many kids, but the bills don't go away. And so
Mm-hmm.
being able to just understand how you navigate that. My mom was she a first generation entrepreneur. Her parents weren't entrepreneurs, but here she is. She kind of became an entrepreneur out of kind of necessity. She had my brother,
Mm-hmm.
my younger brother, and she was pregnant with him, and she needed to take some time off of work. And she was like, man, I can't continue to work at the post office forever. She was a manager there. And she said, well, God told her to open up the preschool from her
Wow.
home. We built it from just working at a home with just a few like of my cousins there, to then, running a preschool that had like 50 kids and having a staff of like 6 or 7. So, and
Mm-hmm.
being known as, the lady and the woman in the community. Like if you send your kid to this school, they're not, if they go to this preschool, they probably wouldn't even have to go to kindergarten. Most of those kids
Mm-hmm.
were going straight to first grade because of the type of love and energy poured into it. And then my dad was the fearless guy who had all the hustles. He would dress up as a clown and do like kids' birthday parties. He would go, he was because he was outgoing, so he would go. I'll see him do that, and then the next month, he's doing magic. And
Mm-hmm.
go to the magic shop and get some magic tricks. So he was out here
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, so kind of watching that, I think gave me a fearlessness, to not be afraid to fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's one part. And then the other part is I talk about this all the time. Like when I have conversations with people, it sounds bad and it's gonna sound bad, but it just is what it is. I'm saying anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I just always believe I'm the smartest person in the room. So I think it's a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
like I think it's a little bit of like, a little ego. But I feel like you gotta have that as an entrepreneur. I feel like you have to think that you have the keys, that you have the solutions. And I just got
Mm-hmm.
sick and tired of waiting for people to do stuff. Like I've never been a
Mm-hmm.
person that I'm impatient. And so because I'm
Mm-hmm.
impatient to a fault, um, I'm ready to make things happen. I was walking at 6 months, man. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know anything about kids, but you ain't supposed to be walking at 6 months.
Nah,
Uh,
you weren't.
Most kids are still rolling over, learning how
Uh-huh.
to roll over and all that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
when my mom was pregnant, they told her, "You may not want to keep this child because he's gonna be born early. He's gonna have severe mental challenges, and his quality of life is not going to be great." I was born premature, um, but then ever since I was little, I've been hitting these marks hella
Mm-hmm.
early. And so I think from an
Mm-hmm.
early age, I learned like you don't have to wait on anyone. They said you're not supposed to be walking at 6 months. Well, shit, I was walking at 6 months. I graduated high school at 16. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was, you know what I mean? Like I started school early, skipped a grade. Those things, like everything that somebody told me that wasn't supposed to happen, I was able to defy those odds. Nobody's supposed to come from my community and do this. Well, I did it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I wasn't taking L's. I was, so when it came to
Yeah,
entrepreneurship, I was
definitely.
like, if there's anybody out here who can solve this problem, it's me. Like I got everything that I need to be able to do it. And so I think that's kind of, I don't know, to answer the question, that's kind of how it's all, I think it's
Yeah.
a really great foundation. Parents allowed me to make mistakes. They allowed me to fail. They gave me the space to do it. And they were very gracious enough
Mm-hmm.
to catch me as much as they could when I
Mm-hmm.
failed, because it did happen. And then I just built a resiliency that I think is suits me really well. I compare myself to the Kung Fu Panda. I don't know if you've ever seen that cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, the panda, he's not like I'm not the most articulate person. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
15 degrees and all that. But the panda, he wasn't like all he did. He just never quit. It didn't matter what happened. He just never. That's it. He wasn't.
Yep. Yep.
Everybody around him had all this more skills and whatever, but he had something special, and that was his determination and
Yeah.
resiliency. So, yeah, man, I think that's kind of where I'm at.
No, you said a couple things that was pretty powerful. I mean, first of all, shout out to your parents for having that mentality of like we got to get it by any means necessary.
Yep.
If I got to dress up as a clown, do magic tricks, we gonna do it to provide for the family. So I like some people would be ashamed to share that, but I think that's huge. The second thing that you said was you have this kind of ego about you when you walk in the room. You feel like you're the smartest, and I think that's dope because I feel like when I walk in the room, I'm trying to be the hardest working in the room. Whether I'm at the gym, I may be like the skinniest dude in there, but like you're damn right, I'm gonna outwork you. You know, I might be with team. You know, I might not have all the resources that people have, but I want to outwork you. So I think that's like something that a lot of entrepreneurs have. They have that a little bit of a that ego to them, like you said. Um, but yeah, so what was like your first hustle that you got into? With you seeing everything that your parents were getting into? What was like the first thing that you got into?
Man, so I don't remember a whole bunch. Like the joke in our family is like Juan's memory is terrible, and
Mm,
I think I'm gonna blame it on like ADHD because my mind, I'm thinking so far into the future that sometimes I'm forgetting like small little details. But I can tell you my first like real entrepreneurial where I was like, oh shoot, like entrepreneurial venture. I was like, oh shoot, like I'm doing this. I used to go buy jeans,
mm,
and I would go to the Rhodium in LA. It's like an open air swap meet, or I would go to like this open air swap meet, and they would sell like seven jeans. They would sell Evisu jeans. They would sell not the real ones, but they look just like them. They
mm,
felt
mm,
just like
mm.
them. I had my reseller's permit. I go drop a couple $100s, and then I went to school at Cal State San Bernardino. I would take those jeans. I would come to Cal State San Bernardino like the next day, and I would buy a like $10 to set up a table outside the student union, and I'll set up jeans. I had like a little flyer. Girls will walk by. Oh, you have seven? Oh, seven jeans. These are $200 jeans, and I was selling them for like, 50, $60, and I was buying
Mm-hmm.
them for like $8 a piece. They would
Mm-hmm.
take them. They'd go inside the student union, try them on, and they would buy them from me. And so I was slinging jeans on campus, and I was making really good money. I was doing, t-shirts and all that. So like that was college. But I mean, before that, like before that, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a business, but I've always had the entrepreneurial mindset, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
the figure it out. And I think as an entrepreneur, the mindset is you have to figure it out. You have to,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to figure this out for you. And I think that entrepreneurial mindset was like it really started from like sports. I played
Mm-hmm.
baseball, and the understanding like failure, like baseball is a great teacher of failure. You fail more than you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
In baseball, you
Yeah.
learn the
They
importance.
say not to cut you off, but if you're batting like around the 300s, that's
Yeah,
really good.
yeah. If you get out 7 out of 10 times, like if you hit the ball and you get on base 3 out of 10, oh, bro, you're Hall of Famer.
Mm.
That means you failed 7 out of 10. You know what I'm saying? Like so, I although I didn't start like a lot of people have the story. Oh man, I had cookies when I was 3, and I was hustling in preschool, and I don't have
Mm-hmm.
that story, but I do
Mm-hmm.
have the story of my entrepreneurial mindset started really early. Of you can't depend on anyone else to come and answer your problems or figure it out for you. I was always left to figure it out. Figure it out, and you come
Mm-hmm.
to me and you let me know what you think. So, yeah, man, that was kind of one of my first hustles was the jeans on campus, and I kind of got known all on campus for slinging them jeans, and then I was doing them in the dorm, and then, yeah, man,
Uh,
things kind of took off from there.
no, that's what's up. So you said you went to Cal State San Bernardino, which I went as well. As I told you, I graduated in 2018. What did you go to study for?
So I went to school for psychology.
Got you.
Yeah, for psychology, man. And anybody who gets a degree in psychology, the thing is they'll tell you most people go into those fields to try to figure out themselves.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
I went into school for psychology because there was a narrative that a lot of people who came from the communities in which I came from, they were just bad people, and they did, you know, they made decisions because they just wanted to. And
Mm-hmm.
I had always had the belief that there has to be some other things in play, like trauma or past experiences or the environment that contributed to why humans make the decisions they make. And I felt
Mm-hmm.
like, even though I know I want to go into business, understanding psychology was going to help me to understand human
Mm-hmm.
behavior and why people think, the way they think, and be able to use that to help navigate people through the
Mm-hmm.
consumer purchasing journey and stuff like that later on. And it's worked.
No, no, that makes a lot of sense. What were some of your like early struggles that you had going into business, or even being in business now? What are some of the early struggles that you had? Because you already know when you go on social media, you type in entrepreneur, it's like they're on yachts, throwing money everywhere, and it's like, man, these people, they don't have any struggles, and a lot of them don't share the struggles that they went through. God bless you.
Sorry about that,
You know,
man.
no, you're good. They don't share what they went through to
Yeah.
get to where they're at, and I think that's one of the reasons why I do the podcast, is to share the journey, and I think that's why it's great to have people like you on that are open to share those struggles as well.
I think the early struggles, I was my early sure, like I kept myself out of, if I moved myself out of the way, I could have got a lot more accomplished. And the reason
Mm-hmm.
why I say that is because the mindset, it's not until like, maybe a couple years ago that I started to understand, the idea of like, just start. I had
Mm-hmm.
all those excuses of why I couldn't execute, even on
Mm-hmm.
a smaller level, right? And I think one of the challenges was always like, well, but I don't have the funding. I don't have this. I would go and I would spend long time doing, long business plans and extensive research, and the time I went from ideation to execution was really long. Um, and so in the early days of entrepreneurship and just really, having these ideas, I would talk myself out of why things couldn't work. I don't think I don't think, I always was dreaming big enough, or sometimes then on the flip side, sometimes I was dreaming too big. Like the idea of like the humble starting, just from a humble beginnings. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
because in my life I've always skipped steps because I'm so impatient, because I was,
Mm-hmm.
walking early, because of all of this stuff. I have a habit of what of I see the finish line. And sometimes when I see the finish line and I'm focused on the finish line, the steps in between isn't
Mm-hmm.
a priority for me. So it's a kind of, I've been on both extremes. I've been on one where I haven't in the early years where I'm saying, I can't do this because I don't have X.
Mm-hmm.
And partly because what I was trying to do it on such a grandiose scale that if I would have just scaled it back and really thought about how could I get started with the resources I have at that moment, it probably would have served me a lot better. So,
For sure, for sure. No, that's really good. That's funny that you brought that up, because for me, I'm the type of person where I think I'm kind of the opposite. I'm ready just to jump in it at any moment. And that can be a flaw, because sometimes I'm not even thinking about maybe the process, or like what I'm not thinking about people around me. I'm just trying to do it. And sometimes it's just a balance that you got to have to think about it, and to be willing to jump into it. And that's something that you kind of talked about on your Instagram the other day, getting things done versus doing them perfectly. You want to speak a little bit more about that?
yeah, man. The quote, I love this quote, man, as I've been, it's don't let great be the enemy of good. And,
Mm,
I do think that a lot of times people use the idea, they call themselves perfectionists. And I call BS on that, because I think a lot of people who say that they are perfectionists, I think there is, this is my psychology hat. I'm getting my psychology bag right now. I think like a lot of people use perfection, the idea of perfection, as a defense mechanism for fear of failure. I think really what
that's a
they're
fact.
trying to say is I really don't want to fail. So I got to make sure a lot of times I got
Mm,
to have control. You know, I have to, I can't relinquish that there's going to be some things out of my control, and I don't want to fail. And because I don't want to fail, I cannot allow this to go out into the world, because if it goes out to the world and it's less than perfect, then I'm going to feel a certain kind of way. So I think a lot of people use that perfection, because if you say that it's not perfect and it's not ready to go out into the world yet, then most people will give you a pass, because they say, well,
yeah.
you should be striving for excellence. You should be striving for 10 out of 10. You should be striving for flawlessness. But eh, the reality is nobody's perfect. The reality is all you could take all the time in the world and put it out, and guess what? You put it out and you find out, oh shoot, this didn't happen. It happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think just getting it done. The video was saying, get it done. Start with what you have, and then let the market tell you what you should do. Because a lot of times we think, oh man, people gonna love it. Oh man, we're gonna do I do a podcast too, and I'm thinking, oh man, I need lights, I need a backdrop, I need this, I need that, and people care about the content. You going and
Mm-hmm.
doing all that, and they may say, oh, that's cool, but bro, we want these guests. We want you to ask these type of questions. That had nothing to do. Now you just wasted,
Mm-hmm.
$500. You got the ring light from Amazon. You got all this, and it's like you didn't even need that. So you just put it out. Let the market tell you, bro. This podcast is cool, but the audio is shabby. All right, cool,
Mm-hmm.
bet. Now I know okay, great. I love the wings, but the fries suck. All right, cool. Now I like, so I think that's and then you reiterate, then you take that feedback, whether it's good or bad, and then you come out with another product. And then you take that feedback and you come out with another product, right? Because if you look at all the brands we use, Brad, the iPhone 1 doesn't look like this iPhone 11 Max or whatever I got now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Neither does the Apple computer, neither does, right? So it's just about putting it out in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And the great part is when you do it, there's just something psychological that just says, oh shit, I created something.
Yeah.
And it's there
Mm-hmm.
in perpetuity. It's there forever. Once you create it, it's there. Like your
Mm-hmm.
kids can say, if you have, I don't know if you have kids or not, or 100 years from now, somebody can pull up this podcast and be like, oh shoot, yeah, man, Chris did, oh man, beautiful struggle. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's there. So I think I'm just an advocate of just knock the excuses out. Like, just stop with the excuses. Let's acknowledge that it's not going to be easy. Acknowledge that there's going to be some failure involved. Acknowledge that you're not going to have full control. And acknowledge it's not going to be perfect. Cool. Put it out.
Hmm. No, that's really good. That's really good. I wanted to pivot real quick and talk about family. As a man that's becoming an entrepreneur, or that is an entrepreneur, and that's married, and that has a son. What are some of the challenges that you're facing with that? And I always like to ask that question because I am married. I don't have any kids yet, but it's something I'm always curious about because with me, I'll say it like this: when I first got into marketing, I would always I was in charge of bringing in new clients, and I was at a point where I would tell my wife, I was like, oh, I called so and so today, I got these meetings and whatnot, and my wife, she'd be like, okay, that's cool, and then a couple weeks would go by and I would tell her the same thing, and then she's like, wait a second, where's the money at? That's cool that you're chasing your dreams, that you're doing marketing, but we got bills that need to be paid. You know what I'm saying? So how do you navigate that as an entrepreneur? You mentioned that your wife, she has her own children's book that's coming out, correct?
Yeah, she just published it.
Awesome. So tell me about the struggles with all that, dealing with a child and whatnot.
Yeah, man. So it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
The entrepreneurial journey is not easy. And I think that's just point blank. Period. And it's not an
Mm-hmm.
easy one. And my wife and I, we're going to be married 5 years this year. But when we first got married, we started a popcorn business. So
Mm.
we get married in September, 9/6,
September what?
9/6.
Okay, we're September 27th.
Okay. See, I
Yeah,
always can.
1 year coming up.
Yep, I could.
Yeah,
Congrats, bro. I can remember
yeah.
because it's 9 plus 6 equals 15. So that's how I can remember how when I got married. I just got to follow the numbers. Yeah, man. So September 6th, we get married. Then we start a business, man. We go and we didn't have our own place. We were living with my aunt at the time to kind of save money, and it was in because my wife she goes starts grad school, so we get married, new marriage, right? We have to figure out that we were dating. We knew each other in school. We started dating after it all ended. If you ask my wife if we dated while we were in college, she'll tell you no, but I said yes because I'm saying yeah because she spent the night at my house and I cooked her dinner, and that's a date. Like I told her. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, that's a whole nother story. I mean, if you ever talk to her,
Uh-huh.
she'll deny it. Yeah, man. So we do that new relationship. We're trying to figure out those nuances. We don't have our own kind of our own space, and for a lot of women, like having
Mhm.
their own space when after you get married, like that's a big thing. We didn't live with each other before that. Like we were doing the trying to be the good Christians and not living with each other and
Mhm.
all that. Right? We get in, then we get this new business. So now we got some debt. We go right into debt to open a business. Then my wife goes into grad school. So now she has the pressures of grad school, the pressures of work. She's a new wife and trying to figure out and navigate that. And we're both not. And I'm the gun ho entrepreneur that's now taking us into debt to open a business and
Mhm.
tanking her perfect credit score. Because here I am, the dude who never had any money. Who I'm like, hey, if we go broke, I've been there before. She's like,
You've been there before. Right,
I've
right.
never seen that, bro. You were taking me to a place that I've never been. So, and then she gets pregnant, and in the middle of this, and while we're trying to figure it out, while we're trying to navigate,
Mm.
and it was to the point it was like, it's either this marriage or this business, and that was
Mm.
kind of the ultimatum, the
Yeah.
marriage or the business, and I end up closing the business because I'm like, I already posted pictures of you on social media, so I guess you got to stay, or I got to keep you for a little bit. Um, so it's challenging, man. So I say all that
Mhm.
story to say all that to say like it is challenging, and my wife and I are in a place now, especially now that we have a son and he's about to be 2. I want him to understand what it's like to be fearless. And I think
Mm.
one of the hardest parts is to remember that we have to model that for him. We have to model, even if we fail through our failures, even if through tough times, we have to model it for him that mom had something that she loved, that she was skilled in, that she was passionate about, and she went for it. And maybe it didn't work. Maybe she didn't
Mm.
sell a whole bunch of books and she had to go back to corporate America, but she tried. And
Mhm.
that is the hardest part. Not the hardest, but that is one of the most difficult parts because we live in a world where that says surrender your dreams. It's time to surrender them. Hey, you had all those dreams, great, cool. Now you got to surrender them for reality. And the reality is we have bills. The reality is you want a car. The reality is you may have a wife who may want some things and have some needs, or have a husband who has some needs. But I think the best thing that a person can do and a couple can do is to sit down and really talk about those dreams together, and then talk about why we're surrendering them and how we can support each other in that journey. Like right
Mhm.
now, it's like we in the space where it's like tag, you're it. I had my shot to try one business. Now it's like, all right, baby, now it's your turn. I'm gonna support you. I'm doing my thing, but I'm all in on what you got. And sometimes we got to know when to step up and step back. So
Yeah.
it ain't
Wow.
easy.
Yeah, no, that's really good, man. Like I said, I always ask those questions because I'm in a marriage as well. We're trying to figure it out. We've had our challenges, especially with being like me being a full-time entrepreneur, and she's the one with the 9 to 5. So it's definitely some stuff that we have to navigate. But for me, it's not anything bad. It's just like lessons, and it's just helping us improve. It's just I think you have to really look at it from a positive perspective. But but yeah, I want to transition into talking about some of the projects that you got going on, such as the podcast. You can start there with the podcast. Um, you were kind of explaining the concept over the phone the other day, and I thought it was super dope. It's kind of similar to what I got going on as well.
Yeah, man. So I was doing the podcast pre-Rona,
Mm-hmm.
pre COVID-19. I haven't recorded. I probably recorded about 30 episodes. I've probably only released about five, and I've kind of put
Wow.
it on hold because so the podcast is called the Fail to Grow podcast, and the idea was and it was birthed out of my frustration of only seeing people's wins and nobody's L's. And I knew that
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't the only one taking L's. Like I knew that I'm brilliant and I'm smart and I look good and all of that stuff, but I can't be the only person taking L's. But you look on social media, like you said earlier, you don't see anybody's L's. Nobody's talking about their losses, and then not even just the losses, but like how they're using those losses to come back, two, three, four
Right.
times better, like the re-up. So that was a podcast, and what was the focus. I'm pausing it because of the new project that I'm working on. I'm finding ways. I've been super busy, and I'm finding ways to tie in that podcast, and it'll probably be
Mm-hmm.
rebranded at some point um, to the kind of new project that I'm working on.
Got you. You want to talk about that new project?
Yeah, man. So I am building I'm the founder of a tech startup called Melanence. Melanence is a play on words, stands for Melanated Excellence, and it is a digital platform. So it's a professional career and personal development platform for communities of color. So think of like, LinkedIn, but for people who look like you and I. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Skillshare, but people who look like you and I, and it's really going to be a place, an online community where it's a subscription-based platform where people will pay
Mm-hmm.
monthly and have access to courses, professional development courses, career development courses,
Wow.
personal development courses, and it'll be opportunities for people who can monetize their brilliance as well. But it's a platform that we own, that's created with us in mind. Was really frustrated, looking at a lot of these other platforms and us not being very visible on them. I go to
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn Learning or lynda.com or other professional development platforms, and I got to scroll for pages and
Mm-hmm.
pages and pages before I get anybody who look like me, any melanin
That's
on
a
there.
fact.
When I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, where are we at? And I just know that our communities are brilliant. There's excellence in our communities, and it's just that same mindset of I can't wait for other platforms to start seeing the value in our communities, because generally we are underestimated, we're undervalued, we're marginalized, and
Mm-hmm.
so I know that we have to do it ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
we're about 30 days from bringing a platform to be able to have instructors on the platform. So if people want to teach a course, they can upload video content, they can get paid from it. So it's kind of cool, an opportunity for them to make some money from there, grow their following and their brand. And then we're about 60 days out from launching it to the public. We're going to be doing an equity crowdfunding campaign really soon. So we'll hear more about that. And people will have an opportunity to buy some shares, some stock in the company, and all of that pretty soon.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. That's definitely something we need. Like me being on LinkedIn, I'm scrolling through pages trying to find people that look like me to get on the podcast, and I'm just like, where are we at? So I think that's a tremendous platform that you're creating. Is it just you by yourself, or is your wife involved? Do you have other partners, or
Yeah, so we are we are my wife was involved in the early stages, but she has her business that she's doing,
right?
and she's like consulting for me because her
Mm,
professional career is she's a curriculum or instructional designer, so she helps me to make sure that the courses on the platform in the early stages are structured in a way that makes sense for people
mm,
to get the content and receive it, and all of that. We do have a founding team that
mm.
we are almost done putting together, so which is pretty exciting. And then we're going to be bringing on some managers, assistant managers, and things like that. So we'll be reaching out to some folks when that time comes to really build out our team. The Um, yeah, I mean, you've mentioned it. LinkedIn, the statistics for LinkedIn, for African Americans on LinkedIn is, I mean, we're out of their whole user base, we're probably only like, I think 5 or 6% of
Wow.
the users on LinkedIn. And then if you're talking about Latinx community, even smaller.
Hmm.
So, um, and it's not
Why
because,
do you think that is?
well, I had a conversation yesterday with someone. I think part of it is LinkedIn to me is a digital version of corporate America, and so
Mm,
it represents um, it represents corporate America in every sense of the word. People don't feel comfortable being themselves. People don't feel
mm,
comfortable being authentic on those platforms. It's almost like you have to create another persona on there because you are afraid that there's going to be, a big brother who is going to go and report you to your CEO. And I don't think
that's a
a lot of
fact.
people feel comfortable that they work for companies where they can be themselves. So I think it just all surrounds and just kind of doubles down on this idea that, like, it's another space where we don't feel comfortable. Like, we don't feel
Mm.
at home on LinkedIn. But 85% of African Americans are on Instagram.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
So why? Because we can create our own communities there. We don't have to worry about being trolled. We don't have to worry about, Karen or Ken saying something crazy to us on there.
Hmm.
And that's the type of community I want to create, on a platform where you can have your profile picture can be you with your natural hair, and it's okay. Nobody's going
Mm,
to say that you're unprofessional because
mm,
you have locks, right? No one's gonna demonize you because you feel passionately, you want to say Black Lives Matter on the platform.
hmm.
Like, so those are the things. And I don't think LinkedIn has even really tried. I don't think they've really tried to embrace our community. I don't think they've tried to really create an environment where our voices are heard. But then at the end of the day, it's hard to really think about our needs when we're not at the table making any of the decisions. If
Hmm.
if you have people outside of your community making decisions for your community, they go get it wrong more than they're going to get it right. So
Yeah, damn near every time, yeah, and that's crazy that you brought that up because I've been kind of testing LinkedIn, and with everything that's been going on with the racial injustice in America, I've been creating content and posting it on Instagram as well, Facebook, and I'll post something on LinkedIn that's related to that, and I promise you, it gets zero love. Like it's just unbelievable, but it makes sense because you stated it perfectly. It's like corporate America.
mhm.
So you know, I'm pretty sure those type of conversations. I don't know if they're really welcomed in corporate America like that. So that's an interesting point of view for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, with that, I wanted to kind of transition into with everything that's going on in America. Um, what are some solutions? What are some things that you think we can be doing as people of color during this time to continue to fight against racial injustice? I'm curious to know your opinion as a black entrepreneur and where you stand with this and what we could be doing or what we should be doing.
Yeah, so it's a good
And
question.
obviously, there's no right or wrong answer. Everybody has their own opinion and where they stand. But I think the point is to ask and to dig into what other people believe and think.
Yeah, it's a good question, man. So my background, yeah, I do marketing, entrepreneurship, but my passion really, I've been working in the education field for years, probably 10 years or more. And I've been doing youth leadership development program out of the University of Southern California. And every year, we give the students an issue to deal with. And
Hmm.
we create this whole leadership. We really focus on servant leadership, ethical servant leadership. And this year, what it was virtual for the first time, obviously because of the pandemic. But the topic that they had to talk about and really discuss and think critically about was um, this whole social unrest, right? And this other pandemic that people of color are dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And we charged the students to come up with proposals to reimagine policing. and what would it look like? What were some recommendations and things like that? And through this conversation, we've had a few panels, and one of the questions that was asked from a young lady who was a lawyer, you know, petitions or protest, or and she said you need it all, and that's my answer. So I think I get so frustrated when I get online, because obviously everybody has a soapbox, and I get so frustrated when someone is saying you shouldn't be doing this. That's not the signing petitions is not going to do anything. Protesting is not going to do anything. Burning down Target is not going to do anything. And my answer is you need it all. The only way you win this battle is by hitting this system at every single level. So you need the people on LinkedIn that's going to speak their truth and say, forget this, this guy who is a partner at this law firm or at this really high, Fortune 500 company, I'm not letting him talk to me like that anymore. So you need people in the job level that's saying, I'm not doing it. You need the youngest to be out in the streets and say, bro, we're not going for this. Nah, you need your goons in the street too, because when Target gets burnt down, people listen. I'm not advocating for burning down small businesses and all of that, but you have to hit people at it has to be economic. It isn't just, I've heard some people like, oh, if we just buy black, everything changes. It's like that's one part of it. Like we do need to support more black businesses. We do need to have more businesses of color out there. We do need to make sure that the black and brown community is united. We do need to make sure that we stand for the LGBTQIA community. We do need to make sure that women are paid equally. We do need to make sure that the trans community feels like we have their back. Like all of that. So the answer for me is like all of the above. Whatever you think that's going to move this thing forward and chip at the system, then that's what it needs to be. Education system, financial system. We got to take our ass out there and vote. People say, "Oh, vote don't change nothing." All right, cool. If you don't think that's going to be effective, when have we ever tried it? When have we ever said as a whole total community, hold politicians accountable? So like I'm for it all. Like the whole system needs to be burnt down. Everything, not literally but figuratively, because the systems are founded on some BS. And I go in forever, but I leave with this. People keep saying, "Oh, this system is broken. This system is broken. This system is broken." And I keep saying it's not broken. I'm like, the system is working perfectly for the people who created this system. It is not a broken system. A broken system means that it was ever whole. It was fine at first, and now it's not fine anymore. You can't break something that was never put together perfectly in the first place. And so the system is working perfectly for the people who created it and who's benefiting from it. The problem is we're just not the ones that were ever included in this system. And so the system is not broken. The system needs to be torn down and built back up with a more inclusive perspective, with the perspective of we all need to be included and have a seat at the table. With the Bible talks about the least of these. Everybody needs to be thought of, and that's the only way we move this thing forward. And the last thing I'll say is we ain't gonna be able to do it by ourselves. I think the only way that this movement got so much steam is because when you look out there, it's a whole lot of white people out there. It's a whole lot of Asians out there marching. I was at a few of these protests, and I had a whole bunch of white people like, hey, brother, like, listen, let us be in the front line. They go shoot somebody, let them shoot us. We'll take the rubber bullets. And I'm like, bro, what? That didn't happen that wasn't happening in the civil rights movement like it's happening now. So I'm encouraged, and hopefully, we just keep it up, because it has to be sustained for a long period of time.
No, that's super powerful. We went to a protest as well out here in the IE, and it's really encouraging to see multiple races out there, white, obviously black, Hispanic, Asian. It's super encouraging to see everybody out there. But yeah, I wanted to just kind of start to wrap this thing up. Didn't want to take up too much of your time on this holiday. I did have a question. Did you want to talk about more about your wife's book? I'm really interested about that and what she got going on with
Nah, I'm
that.
good. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm super excited for my wife, man. The reason why I'm super excited because this is a big step for her. Um, you know, my wife is growing into her own, and she every time that she starts to second guess herself, God sent her signs and symbols that says like, no, you're doing the right thing. So last night she was kind of like, oh man, I don't know. This morning she gets an email from somebody who bought a book and said, now mind you, her book is called I'm So Thankful, and it's a story of like gratitude from like the eyes of our son. So it's from like the eyes
mm,
of like a 2-year-old of what a 2-year-old would be thankful for. His toys, his trains, his mom, his dad, things like that. And this grown man is like, your story is amazing, and this book is a life-changing book for me, and it's so positive, and you are doing exactly what God had told you. Now this is a person in a whole nother state who sent her this email, and I just think that I'm proud of her. She sold on the first day. She had a goal of doing 100 books. She sold 100 books the first day that she put it out, probably within 2 hours.
wow,
And
wow.
yeah, and and come to find out she had. And then it's funny because she's the perfectionist, and she had a typo in her book. And
Mm,
she had a typo in her book, and I told her, I said, "How dope is that?" I said, "Because guess what?
wow.
Your first book that you ever did, that you didn't sit on, that you didn't wait forever, and to make sure it was like perfect, you sold out. People love it. People supporting it. And you had a typo in it." I'm like, that's just goes to show you like God can use whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Your mess that you think is mess. So yeah, man, she's selling the book. I think she might have like 25 more copies now. She just re-upped and ordered like another 300, and I think they're $8 on her website, designedbybrie.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll send you the link too, man. So if somebody needs a
Yeah,
book, yeah, we're
yeah,
getting
yeah.
her probably next 6 months. She'll probably be doing it full time. That's my goal for her. Is I want her to leave corporate America and do something and scratch this itch that she's wanting to
Mm-hmm.
scratch.
Absolutely, absolutely. Send me that link, so I'm gonna post it everywhere, so people can definitely check it out. I'll put it in the link of this. I'll put it in the description of this podcast. Yeah, man. I just wanted to start to wrap it up. Usually, what I have the guests do is if you can leave the audience with one last piece of advice that I know you gave a lot of gems, a lot of knowledge, but if you can just leave on this one last piece of advice, and we'll end it on this. What would you tell the people? What would you suggest them for them to do? It can be business related, life related, whatever you want.
I'll leave them with the same thing I left my students when I did my presentation on leadership for them is we have a social and moral responsibility to leave this world a better place than we found it. And so
Right.
we we are God has given us um, so much and everything that we need to be able to impact the world in ways that we can't even imagine. We just have to open ourselves and be willing to allow it to happen. And the only way we'll be able to change this thing and this experience and really move our culture forward is if we start thinking bigger than just our immediate households and our immediate families, and thinking about how we can impact others. And so I think I would just charge people to continue to think of just the bigger picture. What is your why? And
Mm.
understand that we that's how we move this thing forward collectively. So
Boom, boom, love it. Do you want to leave any social media handles, any websites for people to check out? You mentioned your wife. So you want to leave yours?
yeah, so my Instagram is at Juan Young Jr. JUAN Young YOUNG Jr. JR. I'm on Instagram and Twitter as that. And then follow my business page for Melanence. That's Melanence, Malenence on Instagram. And then I'm Melanence _ on Twitter. Yeah, man, that's about it. I don't tweet
Cool,
much
cool.
on my personal page. Instagram, you'll find some gems I'll drop on there, some videos. I used to post a whole bunch of pictures of my son, but now I actually have to post some business content on there too. But you can
Right.
catch the young prince on the IG stories every once in a while though.
No, no, I got you. I'll put everything in the description to this podcast below. Man, I sincerely appreciate your time. Um, you're super inspiring, super relatable. Hopefully, we can continue our relationship to see where we can, who we can help out there in the world. There's a lot that needs to be done, and shout out to you and your wife doing some things that a lot of people could only wish to do, and it's very difficult. But with that being said, again, I appreciate your time, and it's your boy Chris. I'll catch y'all next week.